Okay. I had some bonus thoughts about the modern romance in favor, of course, which is comparing to the American dream, which essentially, assuming, of course, that I understand the American dream correctly, which is that you have now the ability to change your fate with sufficient work by moving off of the default path. But the thing is, most people will just take things as they come, just like the standard form of getting a job, rather than the American dream of becoming rich, I suppose, I think. And so, but if you put in the work, you can create something great, just like becoming a millionaire. Anyways, that was a bonus note. Next. Uh, Not sure what this means when I wrote this. So I'm gonna skip this note because I'm not sure what I was thinking when I wrote it. And it is kind of related to something I said yesterday anyway. Okay. Expecting X to make you feel comfortable with yourself won't work. For example, if you say, I'll feel happy with myself when I have X in the bank, I'll feel happy with myself when I have a relationship, or I'll feel happy with myself when this happens or that happens. The thing is, you are externalizing the ability to feel good with yourself, and the goalpost will move because the external changed, but the internal did not. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't change your externals, but just don't externalize your expectations of internal change. Okay. You need. I mean, the simple example is when someone wants a relationship in the form of desperation because they think that would be that's what they're lacking. That's what it would fix what they're lacking. But if you have a problem, then you can't complete. You can't. Obviously, relationships are beneficial, but you must first fix the feeling of lack before that. Okay. You need reasons before answers. Right. So reasons for your actions before the answers for what you do. And the reason is because without your reasons, then your answers will not be adequate to fulfill the problem. The reasons are like criteria that like, for example, if you have a goal without values, then the solution to fill your goal is not going to fulfill your values because you didn't line them out in terms of what, they're like boundaries. So you need reasons for why you do it before you set your goal of what you want to do. Not sure what the context was. I wish I wrote more context and I would understand what's going on here. But this is all I wrote down, so unfortunately that's all I can say. Kind of stupid of me. Anyways. Oh, no, I get it now. Okay. This one is about Jim Rohn. Okay, my next note reminded me of where this came from. Okay, so this was about Jim Rohn when he was asking why he couldn't get rich, or like why his results were sucking. And they said, you have intelligence and you have the competence, but without reasons you won't get results, because without the reason, if you have a reason to do something, then you'll go out and get things done. For example, maybe you can be told, if you do X, Y, and Z to finish this project, and if you have a reason to make the project the best project you can make it, then the project is going to be great. If you don't have a reason to go above and beyond, you're going to do the bare minimum, and and your results are going to be mediocre. So, and if you think of the project as your life, then if you have a reason to make your life and make it better, then you're going to do what it takes to make it better. But if you don't, then you're not going to do what it takes to make it better, and your results will reflect that. So you need reasons before you need answers. Now get it. Okay, another quote that he mentioned is when he was talking about how some people would say, if I had $1 million, I'd never work again. And he immediately followed that sentence up with, well, good thing God has seen to it that you will never have $1 million. Anyways, next, let's see. What did I write here? What does this even mean? Anyways, the difference between success and failure is that they both know what must be done, and one does it while the other one does not. Also, this is relevant. Was also listening to 101 essays today. Just because you want something does not mean that you are the most suitable person for that thing. So sometimes you have to understand that desire does not equate results. Only actions equate results, but that doesn't necessarily mean that if you take the actions, you will have the results. You must also align your results with... So action is not the only input, right? It's like what you do is not the only input for the output. And the simple example is this. Let's say someone has... So a group of people can eat the same things, sleep at the same time, exercise, do the same exercise, and they're going to have slightly different results in terms of their weight, body shape, height, etc. So not everything is going to be... Actions are not the only input. So you have to also understand that when looking for an output, you have to understand that there are some inputs that are outside of your control in terms of getting the desired output. So you do need to accept that. Okay. So, choose something that is suitable and you're capable of doing. Okay. And here, I'll give you an example, which is... now, obviously, if you choose wisely, you can still do something that is relevant. So, for example, let's say you want to help people with their illness or help solve a certain illness. That doesn't mean you have to be a doctor. If you look at your skill set, look what your aptitude is better for, you can take a different direction. There are other options. Your focus should not be on what you want, what title you want, or what job you have, but what you want to spend your time doing and what actions you want to be doing throughout your day with what skill set that you are attuned for having and obtaining. So you can still achieve the same goal, but through a different metric. Find one that is suitable. Okay, could your observation imply other conclusions? Okay, I'm not making any claims here, okay? This is simply me retelling a tale and pointing out that there are other conclusions for the same observation. Sometimes when you believe something and you're presented then with a fact, your belief system will automatically make conclusions about a fact. And you won't even stop to question whether or not the observation directly implies the fact. And here's the story I will tell. Someone wrote that they were... Okay, so someone wrote that they read a study about how they tested injecting, adjusting the balance, the hormonal balance of a male, that is to say, I think they injected like estrogen and reduced their testosterone or something, I'm not too sure. And the result was that the males had the same symptoms of feeling like they were in the wrong body or feeling gender dysphoria or whatever. And the symptoms or the way they described the way they felt was the same as the way transgenders described the way they felt. And so their conclusion, the person who said that they saw this study, the conclusion they came to, like they used the study to support their argument, and the argument was, or statement, was that this means that the transgender people who experience this are truly transgender, because it must be the case that, for example, let's say they were, a female transgender man were experiencing the feeling of being in a woman's body, which he equates to with estrogen and testosterone or whatever, or the adjusted hormones. And so because the real men, the people with male brains, because they were in a male body and weren't transgender, experienced the feelings of a transgender when they were exposed to the implications of a female body, that is to say the hormone adjustments that made them feel like they had a female body. That means that transgender men who have a female body must be truly transgender, because they must have a male brain and experience the same symptoms a male brain does. And so I propose that this is not a one-to-one conclusion you can make based on the observation. You can also claim that perhaps this means that these transgenders have a hormonal imbalance, or some of them do. And so it induces the same conclusions. For example, maybe they are, say, a man who is experiencing the higher estrogen, lower testosterone, or whatever effects to their hormones. And if it was fixed, then they would no longer feel it. So maybe they aren't a transgender female. Maybe they just have imbalanced hormones, or the other way around. That's just an example. So my point isn't that this, his conclusion is wrong, or that the study is wrong, or anything like that. My point is simply the fact that if you make an observation or observe what seems to be a fact, an observation, the natural conclusion you come to may not be the only natural conclusion that can be seen. Maybe it's greatly affected by your worldview. Okay. Where am I? Okay. Fear or anger can only be a short-term motivator if you're optimizing for happiness. So a lot of people can be successful if they are motivated by anger for years. They build their business, they're always angry at the world, whatever. But eventually, they have to change. And every time when they change, they go, it would have been, like the anger may have helped me build the business, but it didn't help make me happier. Like, I would have been happier if I had a smaller business and was just happy with myself and the world over this period of time. And now even if it meant that I had less money, it would have been a better experience. So it's not effective to use anger and motivator as a long-term motivator. Now, if you feel anger or fear, you should use it as motivation, because that's what they are. Fear is meant to motivate you away from something. And so usually you have to, with fear you have two options. You can either move away from it or move towards it. That's the only two options with fear. Standing still is the worst, and whether or not you should move away from it, it completely depends on what the fear is. Most of the time, moving away from it is the most effective. Now, let's talk about when moving away is actually correct, because they always say face your fears. Well, some fears are not worth fixing. Also, phobias are, some phobias, you should probably just say, I have a phobia of that, so I'll just avoid it. I'll give you an example. Personally, I can't look at sharp corners. Like, I always feel like it, when I see a sharp corner, I always feel like I'm going to stab my eye on it. I don't know why. so I always just like instinctively make my distance, and it's like, would it help if I just put my eye closer to it? Yeah, I mean, I could control myself and keep myself safe, and it would, but it would just make me feel like I was gonna stab my eye on. So it's like, I mean, this kind of thing not really effective. But if you have a fear of public speaking, that's probably a fear you should get over and face. If you have a fear of um I mean, I don't know what kind of maybe if you have a fear of, say, I mean, if you have a fear of being homeless, you should probably avoid that. If you have some fears are fine. Anyways, I'm just gonna move on because this is not an effective use of my thinking capacity. Anyways, so what is this? What the heck did I write? Anyways, change your baseline expectation rather than being entitled. Is the note here? I'll think of I'll read the note first and then we'll think about it. Okay. Don't align your expectations with what you would like to be true, only with what is true. Change your baseline. Okay. So the example is, if you I'll give you an example. This is a very easily imagined example that I'm sure when I tell the story, you're not going to need me to cite any sources. You can just picture it in your head. So let's imagine a husband and a wife, okay? Maybe the husband is sitting on the couch. And then the wife is annoyed with the fact that the husband doesn't keep things tidy. Maybe he left his jacket on the armrest, and she's told him to hang up his jacket every single time before. And so she's very frustrated because she equates telling him to hang it up with the expectation that he will hang it up every time in the future on his own. And now, because the expectation isn't met, she becomes very stifled, frustrated, and resentment builds over time. Now, question. Should he ignore what she said before and hang it up every single time on his own? Perhaps. Should she lower her expectations and understand that reality is the case, that he doesn't have a habit of hanging up his coat, so she shouldn't expect him to automatically pick up the habit just because she told him? Also, yes. So the case is, sometimes when you don't align your expectation, when you align your expectations with what you want to be true rather than what is true, you are going to create frustration for yourself. I'm not saying she should just let him be and not tell him to do it, maybe, but she should also understand that he simply doesn't value it as much as her, and that it's not a habit he has. It's a two-way street. Maybe he should be more understanding of her and try more. But also, I will bet you that if he remembers some weeks, she's not going to go, oh, great, he started doing it. I'm going to appreciate him for that, because that only satisfies her expectation of reality. And during the weeks he forgets, she will be frustrated because it falls below expectation of reality. So my point is basically this. You will be happier in your life if you align your expectations with what is true and not with what you want to be true. That's all it is. Now, you can be appreciative when things go the way you want, but don't be frustrated when things don't go the way you want and are only follow what is true. Now, you can be frustrated if things go below what is true. For example, if natural disaster struck, that is pretty fair reason to be frustrated because you did nothing wrong. But I think my example is pretty easily understood. Now, I'm not, by the way, I'm not, this is a simple example. Maybe he does much worse, and maybe he does things that are worthy of frustration. But the fact is this, okay? The fact is this. By raising your expectations, you decrease happiness and increase frustration. That's it, okay? Now, does that mean just lower your expectations and settle for less? No. It just means you have to understand that reality doesn't always go your way, so you may have to do things, maybe talk to him in a way that will actually make him do the things you want, and maybe you would think, but I shouldn't have to do that. Perhaps you can believe that, but reality is not meant for you to live the way you want, but reality simply exists, and you have to do the things that reality demands in exchange for the results you desire. So maybe it takes some psychological tricks and go, I would really appreciate it if you were to actively hang your coat up every week, and I understand that perhaps this isn't a habit you have, or maybe you don't value that a coat being hung up, it doesn't really make a difference to you whether it's on the armchair or it's hung up, but it matters a lot to me. And if you had a habit that I do that you don't like, that you feel matters more to you, I would be willing to change too. Maybe you would say something like that. Listen, worldviews are simply different. You have to understand that. Now, that's just an example. You can say, but I shouldn't have to do that. That's just the way. Listen. There are many ways to get to the same destination. Let's say you wanted to travel a kilometer to the festival, whatever. You can get up and walk an hour in advance. You can get up and bike. You can go and drive. But if you sit there and say, I shouldn't have to do that, you're not going to be at the festival. That's just the fact of the matter. So you either get to the festival, or you say you shouldn't have to travel, and you don't get to the festival. Okay. Let's see. How far are we? Okay. We'll do one more note. Okay, so here's the story of Urashima Taro, the Japanese story. And it's a commentary about how time flies when you're having fun. Urashima Taro, who goes under the sea, or he was taken to the Dragon Palace, and it was lots of fun there. He enjoyed a hedonistic life, and time flew. He felt like he was only down there for a day, but when he left, he became an old man that was on his deathbed. And he thinks to himself, where did all of my time go? And he felt regret. And when we hear this story, we think, wow, that would be regretful. And yet, we live our lives pursuing what he had, rather than pursuing something that in his case wouldn't have felt regret. Why is that? We live day to day as if we would love to just have fun forever, and then knowing that our time would fly by if that happens. And then, when look at it from the perspective of someone who spent all of his time doing that, we know we would feel regret. And yet we think that's what we want, while knowing that's what we would regret. Fascinating. This was just a thought I had while on my bed. I think I was trying to sleep. I don't even remember. Anyways, that's gonna be it for today. I think that was pretty good.